Tokyo. Thanks so much for joining, Tia.
Good morning, or I guess good afternoon now.
Good,
How are
good,
you?
good afternoon, good midday. Hopefully, people can join us over their lunch break. Now, I want to mention that this is the second time you have been on the show.
Yes.
You were on in the very first episode with other photographers and videographers. So it's so great to have you back on because you can have the hour to yourself and we can really dive into all the wonderful work that you're doing. I When I first did that episode, I wasn't sure we would have enough to talk about. So I asked 3 contacts, but we had more than enough. So I'm really happy to have you back. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really, really liked being a part, and you might hear something going on in the background. It's just my apartment building making announcements. I'll try and speak over them. But yeah, when you had me on the first time, I was so honored to be just among some like Alfie. I followed his work before I became a professional photographer and before I even registered TopTia. So to be in the same room, virtual room, as him and hearing him just compliment and comment on my own work was just a fantastic opportunity.
That's awesome. Well, we just had Alfie on a couple months ago as well. It's great to have you guys back on and look at more in depth about your work. You've done
We're
such
live.
great projects.
Robert, Robert, we're live. We are live on the interweb, sweetie.
Hey, this is all the charm of the live stream. So, before we start, let's introduce a little bit about you and about your beautiful website so people can find out more after the
Sure.
talk.
Sure. All right. How can we do this?
Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, yeah, like as you heard earlier, in 2016, I registered my business, TopTia Photography. That's the logo. If you can probably see, can they see that? Oh, there we go. Perfect. So yes, my business is TopTia Photography, and I specialize in headshots, events, and branding photography. I also do travel photography as well, promoting inbound tourism. And it's my fifth year, I want to say, 2000, yeah, fifth year now. So the fact that
Congratulations.
I,
Yeah.
thank you. So the fact that I've made it, yeah, this long and this far is just really mind-boggling to me. It's mind-boggling to my father, starting a business in completely another country. So that's basically my photography story
Well,
in a tiny nutshell.
you haven't always been a photographer, right? You had other careers before.
Yes. So I moved to Japan in 2011 and I was focusing on Japanese history. And to supplement my Japanese history studies, I was teaching English. And one of the things that I really, really enjoyed about teaching English is that it allowed me to just really be a part of the community, the Japanese community, and just the Japanese culture. And I wanted more. I wanted to immerse myself. So I changed positions. I changed gears. I didn't particularly want to go an academic route. I wanted to find ways to basically enjoy just being in Japan. And I got different jobs that allowed me to be a part of Japanese schools, Japanese elementary schools, that I could see things like their ongakukai, their undokai, and just live the Japanese life.
Well, you have excelled in the photography world. So we're going to dive into showing some of your beautiful, beautiful portrait photography, event photography, and lots of other projects that you're doing.
Yes.
Before we dive into that, though, let's give a shout out, congratulations for your certified professional photographer certificate. This is a big deal.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So when virus happened and the lockdowns happened, I mean, it was kind of a lemons and lemonade kind of situation. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to just find a way I could improve myself, improve my skill sets, kind of look at this in terms of, okay, this is just a setback. This is not the end. This is an opportunity where I can really invest in myself. And I heard about the certification of professional photographers through a course I was taking during this lockdown period from the New York Institute of Photography. And when I completed that course, they said, okay, well, you've completed the course. Why not take the opportunity to apply for this exam and apply for this certification? And there are only really 2,000 photographers worldwide that hold this certification. I'm surprised it's only 2,000, but yeah, I just thought, okay, yeah, I'll join this exclusive club of certified photographers, and so I did, and it was fantastic.
That's great. Well, using the time during coronavirus to build foundations like that, like to up your skills, to improve in some way, that's the target for all of us. But I think many of us are feeling guilty that we haven't accomplished more. So I
Hmm.
wanted to make sure that I gave you a shout out for that, because well done getting that done during COVID. You did it.
I know. Well, it's because, well, I mean, just to be pretty frank, it was devastating. 60% of my business was events. I did a lot of event photography, tag along photographer, where if somebody's, an inbound tourist comes into the country, and you just kind of follow them around and you capture their adventure for them, and that was just drying up. It was disappearing. Um, it really did hurt. And just something to kind of get you through that hump, or get you through those few months where yeah where you're still positive, you have this time, and you're just trying to use it effectively. That was my motivation for taking the NYIP course, and then continuing on for the CPP certification.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm showing, of course, like you
Oh,
mentioned, you were doing a lot of inbound tourism stuff. Maybe you're starting that more, but you always take beautiful, like destination photographs from off the beaten track as well, working with Jarman International, working with other travel and tourism guiding in organizations, maybe. But
yes, ma'am.
I love the creativity of the destination photographs. It's not your typical travel photos. You show so much personality and character when you are on travel photography gigs, as well as the personal portrait photography. I love how you bring out the character of not only like statues or at the shrine or temple, which is so hard, but personally as well. You seem to have taken a real creative stance on the portrait photography. I love that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so one of the things that I really, really enjoy doing is getting people excited about being photographed. Um, this is not a difficult thing for the man in this photo. He is he's an actor, and he was really excited to do the photo session with me. And it just really just trying to do something out of the box for him. There's a lot of Japanese photographers or Japanese models who work with photographers have a certain look, and I kind of wanted to break that mold. Something that was a little bit more artistic, something that was a little bit moody. I love low key and moody photos in the studio, as you see from Patrick and of Jamie in those two photos. This person, we were celebrating Women's International Day with one of the few, I think the only female executive in Western digital. So that particular style is my artistic and fun style. So sometimes you will see that from time to time. But when it's me out and about exploring Japan, I do like a kind of storytelling to some of the photos that I take. I do like simplicity. Sometimes you will see minimalism in some of the photos. Um, oh, this one I really, really love. This is the Nebuta Museum. I don't think this one was the winning Nebuta float for 2019, but it was at the entrance, and each oh no, let me back up and explain this. In Aomori, there's this festival called the Nebuta Matsuri, and it's basically these massive lantern floats, and they are presented in a way that tells a story. And oftentimes, the story is a very epic story about a fight or a battle or something really cool. And every year, they pick the best Nebuta float. And sadly, there wasn't one last year, and there wasn't one this year, or isn't going to be one this year. So if you go to Aomori City and you go to this Nebuta Museum, they still have the winner from 2019. So lucky stars to the 2019 winner. They get 3 years of publicity. But yes, I just love a good story, and I love building stories through my photos.
Adore this one as well. This is in the urban landscape. So not only out in the countryside, not only at events or festivals, but even something that you might see every day. But the way that you show it through your camera, it brings out something extra. I love this one. Is this Odaiba?
That's in Odaiba. Oh my goodness. So I found myself in uh, a very oshare, very fashionable side of Odaiba, and this is the Soho. It's a co-working space, an exclusive co-working space, and I just loved the colorful doors that they had on their walls. And I went over to take a picture, to get a picture of it, and I just, again, simplicity, minimalism, the patterns of just having these doors looking back at the audience. It's just very quirky. It's very simple and clean, and that's what I appreciated most of that experience.
I love it. The simple things that you can make look interesting, isn't that's such a skill and a talent to walk around even your own neighborhood and see something interesting or valuable about it, right? So I love your photographer eye in that way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Also about photographs, like taking photographs of people for portraitures.
Mhm.
How do you bring out the character or personality of the people that you photograph? Do you have any style or hint or philosophy for that?
Well, when people come to me to ask for their headshots, their branding, or their portrait, a lot of times people say, I'm doing this because I have to. I'm doing this because my picture is 10 years old or I look different. It's always presented as, I don't want to say a means to an end, but something that's obligatory, like they have to do it. It's never like, hey, I want to go and take a photo of myself today. It's not that kind of whimsical motivation. There is a need to get your photo taken, and following when I find that out from clients, the thing that I often hear is, I'm really bad at taking photos. I don't like getting my photo taken, or I'm really bad at posing, or please help me with doing this and that. So I hear that a lot. These three ladies that you have presented, that they're not one of these people, surprisingly, but what I like to do is I like to reassure clients that having their photos taken with me is not going to be the equivalent of going to the dentist. They're going to have fun. I'm going to make sure the environment is conducive to their needs. They can bring their music. We're blasting music in the studio on my Bluetooth speaker. I'm coaching them through different poses. So it's not going to be standing there saying cheese. It's going to be, okay, do this, move your body this way, pull your shoulder down this way. So it's very guided. And a lot of the ladies and the men really do appreciate that. They really appreciate that they're not on their own. They're not just given a life jacket and, they have to make do with what they have. It's really coached and it's really directed so that they're at ease and they know guaranteed they're going to walk out with a photo that they're going to love.
I love that. And I was so interested when I read that on your blog that a lot of people come to you and say, I haven't had my photograph taken like this for 10 years. And when I did a session with you as well, for me, it was a real pivotal time too. It was more than 10 years. I hadn't done for a long time, but I needed it because I was transitioning to like a new step in my life, in my career. And so that's so interesting that people come to you at these pivotal points in their lives. What a honor and pressure as well to document them at this important time. But
Of
you do
course.
it so beautifully.
Of course. I mean, talk about pressure. A lot of times when people do come, if they haven't waited 10 years, they're getting a new photo because they want to change jobs and they want to look fresh for LinkedIn or fresh for when they're doing interviews with their potential employer. So yeah, you're trying to make your client visually uh, uh, presentable for, their next job. So obviously, you're not if they don't get the job, it's not my fault, but sometimes you put that weight on your shoulder.
It was interesting as well. It looks like you're doing makeup as well as you do very professional lighting.
Mhm,
You knew what kind of poses would make people look more engaging. Um,
mhm.
I love your style. I think that comes from being a people person. You are so obviously a person who can connect to other people. You're not just a photographer. Do you find I didn't realize that you were also doing the makeup? Are you collaborating with makeup artists for this?
Yes, yes. So I collaborate with two makeup artists. One who's from Africa, she's from Senegal. She's amazing. I love Darlene Yaya. And the second one, her name is Nobue Doi from Kyoto, fully trained in Paris. I've been working with her for 3 years. I always offer clients the option to do makeup or have makeup done. A lot of ladies take that opportunity because maybe they don't wear makeup or maybe they don't really trust their makeup skills. Or it's in the middle of summer, and by the time they get to the studio, it's just running down their face. So they do appreciate having that ability or having that opportunity to get makeup done. I also partner with a stylist because sometimes people don't really know how to style their clothes or what kind of clothing combinations they would like to bring. So I do recommend a stylist to clients who can come to their house or have a consultation with them to decide which clothing they would like to have for the session, or even go shopping with them so that they can buy something to add to that look.
Wow, that's great
Mhm,
insight. That's something that I've certainly learned over the year since we interviewed last time. Now
mhm.
you are number 265, and you
Full
were number
circle.
one. Oh my gosh! But that's one thing that I've learned as well is that you need to have some kind of foundation. You should wear bright colors. Having a ring light at the top of your screen or be on your camera, it does help. Like
Mm,
these are things when you're using a visual medium, you do have to have the right stuff to have the
yeah.
right look.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you just don't get the same message across if you don't look right visually, right?
Mm. It's so true. And I noticed sometimes there's an interesting transition of clients that I have where there's somebody moving from Japan to the US or they're moving from a Western country to Japan. A lot of the headshots, corporate or business headshots, are quite casual, especially for startup companies or startup employees who have that relaxed, casual, business casual look. Their headshots are in sweaters, maybe what do you call it, a collared shirt. Um, those particular photos they don't translate well here, or sometimes I've heard people are saying that they're not really received as well when they come to Japan because everyone wants the business suit. They want that professional look. So I have been getting clients that are saying, yeah, I've moved to Japan and I need something a little bit more business forward or business facing. And then the opposite, I have clients right now who are going to Japan, or excuse me, going to America, and they're saying my look looks too corporate and I don't want to look stiff. I want to look personable and friendly and like a team player. So I do have in terms of your point to clothing coordinating and who your audience is, it does come up.
And it's so important to have both, right? To have the casual look, but also that professional headshot, especially
Mm-hmm.
if you're looking for a job or if you're running your own company and you want people to trust you. Like
Yes.
having the shots that you've done professional versus casual, they're both really important, I think, in this day and age, right?
Absolutely. And I tell clients, I say, hey, bring your professional outfit because this is usually a headshot session. But also bring something casual that's kind of fun. And bring something that would never or haven't worn in a while. Because it's been COVID, a lot of people haven't worn their formal wear, their elegant wear. The photo that you had, I think previously, um, the black and white photo, the one in the bottom, one, two, three, left, bottom right. Uh, we were doing a headshot session where she brought business clothes to the session, and I said, "Oh, well, just bring something like nice and formal, and we can do a beautiful like formal photo." And the black and white photo here, we did that. And when I actually did her photo reveal, where I'm selling her photos, she got her business photos in digital, but she specifically ordered a matted print of this photo because it's something that's outside of the box. It's something that you wouldn't normally do. Some of my clients, the last time they had their photos professionally done was their wedding day. So depending on the time difference of when that was, that's a long time.
And as someone who's been on the HR side and reviewed potential teachers' CVs with photo, I can tell you the photo makes a big difference, especially if you want to trust them to be around your clients or to be around your students, right?
Mm-hmm.
So having something where you show kindness, you show character that people can trust, it's valuable. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's talk about Angela Ortiz
Oh yeah.
because this year was a pivotal year for her Place to Grow organization, and you also were in at an event with My Invisible Compass. Can you talk
Mm-hmm.
about those two? That's awesome.
Yeah, so I love Angela. Angela is one of those people that you try to aspire to. I have her book that she just came out with last year, and it's a really good read if anyone's interested. Um, just amazing woman, and photographing her and her daughter at this session was quite fun. Um, uh, she's just what can I say about her? She's super confident.
Yeah. She's
I can
been
just
she's been in the series a few times.
Yes.
This year,
Hmm.
around the Tohoku disaster memorial time,
Hmm.
her and her father were telling the story of Place to Grow and the work that they've been doing over the last 10 years. I don't know much about My Invisible Compass. Was that a
Yeah,
in-person event or?
that was it. An in-person event during the lockdown. It was a symposium, which kudos to the team that put that together. There was a lot of preparation that they had to do for the media. Everyone was spaced out just so that we could be safe in that room. Uh, Matt Miller, the My Invisible Compass was created by filmographer Matt Miller, who is the guy you see here. He's part Japanese, half Japanese and half American, and he just has a remarkable story, not only of his own background, but of the person who he's talking about in the story. I think that they're still continuing funding for the film. It hasn't been released yet. Of course, COVID things kind of delayed the film just a bit, but it should be coming out soon, I believe.
And you mentioned it was a fundraiser for Midai no Mori, is it?
So the how it works is as Matt Miller is one of the ambassadors, he's one of the volunteers for Mirai no Mori, and he's just one of the rock stars of that organization. Mirai no Mori focuses on marginalized children who are in group homes or who are in less ideal circumstances, and they introduce them to nature. And I've photographed for Mirai no Mori before, and it's such a wonderful group of adults who just want to make things enjoyable for children, find them an outlet that they can build confidence, have fun, and just not really focus on the negative aspects of of what they're going through, and focus on something new and positive. That's where I met Matt Miller, and that's where Matt was filming and getting the footage of the movie, of his documentary, excuse me, My Invisible Compass, which does follow one of the Mirai no Mori students, or Mirai no Mori campers, who did lose his family and lose his home in the Tohoku earthquake disaster.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's, I mean, we talked to Sarah Jean Rosito as well about Minai de Mori, and it sounds like a great organization. Just getting kids out into nature and doing really simple things like hikes, but it
Mhm.
can have a really profound effect on their development, and kind of reconnecting to nature helps them reconnect to themselves and their community. It's a really beautiful organization. Looking forward to reaching out to Matt and learning more about that. That sounds really interesting.
Please, please do. And going back to the Angela's point, this is something that I've talked to Angela about. She really does believe in this idea of really being consistent with volunteering. That was what, to me, that was one of the main core parts of A Place to Grow, because from what she was telling me is, you don't want to have volunteers that go and volunteer and then rock out and you never see them again. She talked to me about having the same volunteers consistently participating and visiting the people of Tohoku monthly, quarterly, annually for her. I believe she had this really, really big Christmas event where people would go up to Tohoku and they would celebrate Christmas. And if you had the same people there, then that would, really strengthen the relationship between the people who they were helping and the volunteers. Matt is definitely one of those amazing people who've been consistent, and who, I think he's been a part of Mirai no Mori since 2014. So that's really something that's really key, especially for children, marginalized children who might have certain anxieties, and to be able to trust somebody who is older, who is different, who is not Japanese, who's not speaking Japanese. That consistency is really important, and that's something that both Matt Miller and Mirai no Mori share with Angela, and A Place to Grow.
Definitely. And the whole idea, like Angela often says, is the locals just don't want you to forget them
Mm,
now that it's been 10 years. So
mm,
the work still continues, right? It's really
right.
important to think about. Another organization that you did photography for was the breast cancer event. Was that
Yes.
Run for the Cure?
That was Run for the Cure, absolutely. Run for the Cure, I joined them because I had a personal loss in my family to breast cancer. And when I came to Japan and started uh, photographing, I wanted to join their cause. And I actually joined their cause initially. I got to back up for a second. I was a few member, and I was on the few board as a community service director. And I was trying to find NPOs that I could reach out to that our few members could participate in and with and volunteer for. And at the time, their Run for the Cure event, their flagship event, was coming up in December. And um, as I was talking to the team, the coordinators, to see if there could be something that we could do with Few and with them, I was just kind of like, hey, I'm a photographer. Can I also photograph your event? This is like a really, really fun opportunity for me and for you guys as well. So we've actually had a relationship for, I think it's 4 years now, because I've also been photographing their pink ball and their casino night as well, and a couple of photos for their magazine, their pink magazine.
It's so difficult. Let's talk about photography at events or conferences like this, because you, as a photographer in the studio, you can control the lighting, you can
Yes.
control the background, you can ask people to pose in a certain way. But when you are a photographer at an event or a conference like this, you can't. You just have to find the right angle. This is a beautiful photograph, perfectly lit, perfect angle. Any tips for event photographers out there?
Well, study your light. Look for the where the light is coming from. I can't really take credit on the lighting. That was totally provided by the light designer who was lighting the stage that Vicky was talking at or talking on. So that the real props go to the lighting design team. But in an event, the first thing I do is I try to study my location. I study the room. I'm looking at what my light is. Where's the light coming from? Is it a light that I want? Is it a light that I want to get rid of or change? Once I make that decision, then I can set my cameras to where I want it to be, or set my camera settings to what I want it to be, set my lights, if I have external lights, to what I want it to be. And then I start capturing the event.
Another example of not being in control of your light. Outdoor photography for weddings, beautiful.
Oh, that's fun. It's really funny because I love the magic and I love the romance of doing couples photos, because you can really tell them and guide them and coach them in many different ways. And you're not really dealing with too many people. It's just two people in love, and they want something really magical to cherish and look at. So they're going to work for those photos, and you can tell them what to do and anything what to do or anything to do. So this one, we were in the Imperial Gardens, and it was really nice. It was a really nice day, nice and cloudy. I didn't have to worry about too much harsh sun. If I did, I would have had my assistant kind of help me mitigate that issue with a reflector or with a diffuser, something so that the light isn't too harsh. But in the second photo, this one is it's December because it's the illuminations, but uh, you don't see in the photo the other 10 brides and grooms that are in this area trying to capture the same thing. I wanted to capture something magical. Not to get too technical, I guess I'm explaining the technicalities of the photo. I've got a light behind them, and I've got my assistant holding a light in front of them, to kind of get a nice soft glow, but still you get that bright feel and bright look of the illuminations behind them. So yeah, the couples are really, really patient because they want the photo. They want that photo for the gram. They want that photo for the album. So if it means they got to do a little work, I find that very fun to do.
Gorgeous.
Mm.
So it transitions beautifully into what you say is your favorite event to cover, which is Shichigo-san,
Yes.
and family photography, all dressed up in beautiful traditional Japanese clothing, kimonos, to celebrate a child turning either 7, 5, or 3. So
Yes.
Shichigo-san, right?
hmm I love Shichigo-san because, it depends on a lot of things. Um, it depends on how involved the family is with their local shrine, because not all families, particularly Western families that like the opportunity to do Shichigo-san photos, don't always know that you can actually go and do the ceremony in the shrine with the priests. It's usually just like, oh no, we want the experience. We want the to wear the our kimonos and be presentable and dressed up. So the opportunity on opportunity on a, how can I say, on a small level or less involved level is pretty strong for a lot of families. But then you get the Japanese families or the bicultural families where they're like, no, we want to go to our local shrine. We know this, we've known our priest for 30 years. He's been in our family. We want him to bless him or bless her. So sometimes I'm actually in those sessions where I'm in the shrine with them, and depending on the rules of the shrine, most times we're not allowed to take pictures during the ceremony. But I have experienced some lenient and forgiving priests that say, okay, you can take a couple of silent photos, but please don't shoot the whole process. Pick key moments and then just kind of sit in the back. So it does vary in terms of involvement. These two photos, oh, there are four photos. The one where we had a priest bless the child was this orange photo or the yellow photo to the right. That one I did kind of have to I could shoot before the ceremony and after, but not during the ceremony. But then the remaining ones, these were pretty laid back, less involved sessions where we were at the shrine and we enjoyed the shrines, the location of the shrine, and we did a simple prayer at the shrine, and then that was the maximum kind of level of the Shichigo-san ceremonial practice.
Can you talk a little bit technical here about what kind of camera you like to use, like on location?
Okay.
You mentioned before you take like a reflector or an extra light.
Mhm.
Can you just talk the technicals a little bit? Mhm.
Sure. So for this, I'll start from the left and then go to the right. So for the left one, I did use a pop-up flash, or not a pop-up flash. I used an on-camera flash. Basically, it's on my camera. It's significantly bigger than a pop-up flash, but I just wanted to diffuse it so that I could get a clear look of all the details of the face of this child. I'm not going to name names of children, but this young lady. And then this one, I just let the ambient light, it was about late afternoon, take over. There is some editing involved to where I wanted to enhance the warmth of the ambient light. So that's the secret sauce for that photo. But the two red photos, the one in the middle and the one on the far right, these three girls know each other. They're from different families, and they just wanted to have a session with them together where they're all experiencing Shichigo-san. Two of the girls are 7, and one of the girls, I think the youngest sister, is 5. And it was just a ball of them just wearing these kimonos, acting like just fashionistas. They really enjoyed just being in this kimono and being in Japan in this shrine that was in Kamakura. Uh, the other two, I think the one on the top, where it's the young lady between the trees, and then the young man who's just kind of standing on the rock. These two were by Japanese family. One was a Japanese family, and then one was a bicultural Japanese and European family. And so these, we did have the more involved sessions where a priest was involved in the blessing of the children. Again, I wasn't able to photograph the ceremonies, but I did get to enjoy the company of the children by having them do something kind of fun, kind of jumping and playing. Anytime I have to do something really fun and energetic, I almost never have extra lighting equipment. I'm always going off of the camera and the ambient light that's around me. So I am changing my settings a lot to compensate for things. But this one, the one where it's the young man and there's the kind of haze, uh, this boy was quite energetic, and I like energetic kids because I'm kind of an energetic 30 some odd year old, and I like bouncing around and jumping and hoo-haing. And this one was no exception, and it was about dusk, a golden hour, and he's jumping around, he's in his outfit, and then I just call his name and he just turns around, and in that moment where the sun's just coming, boom, I got the shot. Was not pre-planned. it was definitely organic, which happens. Sometimes you get that magical moment that you didn't think of beforehand. So that was a magical moment.
Well, that's gorgeous. I love that. And that's one key thing that Alfie was saying as well in his interview not long ago, that it requires some luck when you're a photographer. You just sometimes are able to take the beautiful photo, but it definitely requires some luck.
Yes, especially with children.
So another maybe difficult shooting that you had at events was the Black Lives Matter march.
Hmm.
And those photos are so powerful and so important in terms of documenting not only America's history, but what was happening in Japan um,
Hmm.
during the Black Lives Matter movement. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. A little over a year ago, the Black Lives Matter movement, the Black Lives Matter movement had been around before the unfortunate events of George Floyd's murder. But the momentum, the footage of seeing people who had been on the fence with Black Lives Matter, people who had been completely dismissive of Black Lives Matter, the organization, not the concept, were starting to come around. And so you started seeing this wave of people listening and starting seeing this wave of people understanding and developing empathy and really starting to manifest that into action. People who, you might consider pulling teeth, to see the injustices that were going on in the US, were starting to lend that ear. And that was no exception with Japan, because Japan, it had always been, that's an American thing, that's not an us thing, we don't really need to focus on that. Um, and here, on a day where it was a lockdown day because of the pandemic, and a day where it was raining because it's June and it's rainy season, 3,600 people had come out to voice their frustrations with the injustices of what happened to George Floyd. And that just blew me away. And I wanted to be a part of documenting that. I wanted to see who's coming. What kind of messages are they saying and sharing? And I really honestly went there to ask people. I was there asking Japanese people, like, "Hey, why are you here? What prompted you to be here?" And a lot of people were saying, I saw the footage, I saw what happened on the news, and I thought it was unfair. I thought it was disgusting. I wanted to share my support to the Black Lives Matter movement. Um, it was truly, truly remarkable just seeing people, young and old, uh, not just African American Black, but African Black, Caribbean Black, UK Black, and then, of course, people who are neither of those things out there representing and supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. Or at least, I shouldn't say that, fighting for justice for this man, George Floyd. And then seeing that conversation change into, hey, can we do some racial reckoning here in Japan with mixed race children and mixed race adults? So that really was a magical kickoff to not just a world reckoning, but also a Japan reckoning as well.
Yeah. And intersectionality, right? Like bringing into the conversation about, like, here you have queers for Black Lives Matter or queers against racism. So bringing in other marginalized groups,
Mm-hmm.
gender empowerment, racial divide, intersectionality in terms of how you identify as a person and how you feel about your gender, and how is that talked about. So in terms of bringing in so many conversations that needed to have a light shine on it, that was a really powerful part of Japan's history, not
Yeah.
only happening in America, right?
Absolutely. And just taking the pictures and showcasing them. I mean, I'm one of those, I'm like you said, I'm a people person. I like people to be happy. I like people to be comfortable. And so some of the things and frustrations that I have about my own not saying my own experiences with microaggression, my own experiences with racism, I was just always of the mind of people don't want to hear that. And I just always kept quiet. And so being able to show these visually really helped me kind of bring out my voice, and say, hey, I'm going to talk about this. We can talk about it, and have a conversation about it. It'll be tough. And I was just blown away by the people who I worked with in past NPOs, people who were my clients, people who were, just that this doesn't affect them in any way, shape, or form, were being engaging in this really difficult conversation and educating themselves. And so it really helped me feel comfortable even being a part of this conversation, with people who, are now my friends, or people who I now see as true allies. Because you're right, Joy. We all do need to come together and combat issues on a united front and not, fragmented.
Absolutely. And you did that beautiful portrait. She was one of the organizers, right?
Yes, Sierra Todd, she was one of the organizers. We got together to do a session, in the studio to highlight more about Black Lives Matter, through different mediums, including fashion, including other portraits. So yeah, it was really really a nice project that we did together, as well as with Sophia. I'm going to get her name wrong. Mira Mirith. I'll link to her handle, or her Instagram handle, but she was the one that actually kicked that collaboration off.
Yeah, great. Well, it's great to see that you were able to capture these beautiful moments, not only in the protests and the, well, not really protests, but in the marches, but also the people who were organizing, who probably got a lot of negative flack. But having this beautiful, powerful portrait of someone who was an organizer and representing their role in this gorgeous way, that is the power of photography. And I love it. You did a great job.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Let's talk a little bit, transition a little bit back to travel
Sure.
and representing the off the beaten track travel experiences. I think we talked about this a little bit in our first talk a year ago. Wow. Where is this? This is beautiful. Is the yellow flowers?
Yeah, so that's nanahana. It's canola flower, which before I photographed this, I did not know that canola oil was made out of this flower. And two, that these flowers are like seasonal. They're kind of like sakura flowers. They only come out a certain amount of time at a certain time of year. And we had just lucked out and just had we saw this blindingly yellow field of these flowers. I just loved photo. I think we stayed like, I don't know, a couple of hours. I just did not want to leave this place. It was absolutely beautiful just photographing. And we took this actually a couple of months, no, last month, early last month. They usually have, again, another Matsuri that got canceled to COVID. They usually have a Matsuri, and there are usually more flowers. I mean, how can you imagine more? But there are a lot more. And they had to mitigate for social distancing and what can I say, social distancing and just not bringing too much of a crowd to the Matsuri. So the Matsuri was kind of there. It was just a little bit low key this year. But just the number I saw, when we were there, it was just I just loved it. I really didn't want to leave.
Ah, it's gorgeous. And
Yeah,
I'm so glad to see that last year and the beginning of the COVID pandemic, there were some parks that had like tulip blossoms and they decided to cut them all down so
I
people wouldn't want to
know.
view them. So
I
I'm glad that they stopped that tactic and let people go and enjoy outdoor spaces because it actually seems perfect to go and enjoy the outdoors, doesn't
I
it?
mean, it does. And this is kind of one of the good points about going to a lesser known location is if you're going to say Shinjuku-gyoen, it's there. It's in Shinjuku. Everyone's there. It's popular. It gets crowded pretty easily. But if you're traveling a bit further north, there's not a lot of people trying to get to the tippy top of Aomori, which is where we were, um, to see these beautiful sights. I mean, they're worth going to see. But I just liked how we didn't have to worry about the crowd. I didn't have to worry about photoshopping people out of the photo afterwards, or people getting in the shot, or waiting for people to leave like I would in maybe Hamarikyu or Jindai gardens, or some of the Tokyo gardens that you see from time to time. I just love the seclusion and just the uninterrupted space that we were in. So
Another good argument to get out of the big cities when
get
you
out of the
travel
big
in Japan, because
city.
there is so much to see, and not only like really interesting culture, really interesting local people, but these stunning views. We've only got 9 minutes left, so
Of course.
are any of these photos you want to talk about? These are all gorgeous.
Well, some of them are should be familiar because we talked about them on the first episode. So, like the Nippon Daira photo of Mount Fuji from the opposite side is one familiar one, and the photo of the paraglider, paragliding, the kite that's in Mount Oyama. That I don't remember if we both went to that one, but yeah. Then there's Sado Island, and then I think this one is, where were we? Naruko Onsen, the swans in Naruko Onsen. So some of these are a bit familiar, but I did kind of just to establish our connection that we've been on a couple of these trips
Yeah,
before.
I remember we were both at Nippon Daira with
Both
that
at Nippon Dara.
beautiful view of Mount Fuji, and you were out and I was out. We were out at the dawn, right when the sun is coming up.
Hmm.
You've got your tripod out there getting the best shot, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And then that sky paraglider, is it? I wasn't on that trip. That's gorgeous.
Oh, this one was with Jarman International, and we were climbing Mount Oyama. And I swear, I wish more people knew about Mount Oyama. I will stand up on Mount Oyama and sing to the heavens about how gorgeous this place is. There's such a rich history to it, in the sense of there's a connection between Enoshima and Mount Fuji. It's kind of like a halfway point. Uh, in between the two, and there are actually historical stories that connect the three places. But outside of folklore and that kind of history, there's also like recent, I don't say recent, but like 150-year-old history where merchants would come, companies would come. You know how in the 70s when companies had like the company retreat, and they go to like an onsen, or they go to ryokan or whatnot. Well, this was kind of what companies were doing in like the late Edo period, and they would bring like these massive swords, that like wooden swords, and as a team they'd stay at the ryokan, and then the next morning when they're climbing up Mount Oyama, they carry this big huge wooden sword, because it's cut to be shaped like a sword. And the idea is that they're trying to bring good fortunes to their company, they're trying to bring good fortunes to their business. If you go there now, you can see like old business names that were written in certain ryokans or on the shrines. It really is a wonderful place, and it is it's a great place that you could go for a day, but it's also a great place you could go for the weekend. If you're very active, like if you like hiking, it's really great for hiking. And then, of course, up top, you get a nice little reward meal, which is so fantastic, because I think it took us 3 hours to walk it, but one of us ran. And I think it took him maybe about an hour and a half to just run up
Oh,
there. And
wow.
the paraglider, I took that photo at the top of the mountain.
Wow.
So
Gorgeous.
I do women's retreats, and I really want, when everything goes back to normal, I really want to get my next women's retreat to be out here in Mount Oyama.
Oh, that would be awesome. One more thing I wanted to mention we haven't touched on yet is you
Yeah.
also do product photography. Now,
Yes.
I love this yuzu kosho ingredient because, of course, focus on sustainability. It's in a reusable container, and making your own yuzu kosho instead of buying it from the store, which is usually in a plastic container. This is a very sustainable DIY. And yuzu, for anybody who doesn't know, yuzu is a kind of citrus, and it was from Kochi. I believe we had a guest on Violet talking about Kochi and all the yuzu in the area. Kosho is black pepper. So, what was the story behind this? This is a great photo.
So I do a lot of lifestyle product photography, and I also do catalog product photography. This one was to cover one of my favorite cooking classes, Kitchen Nippon. I love going to cooking classes. I miss cooking classes. But this particular one, Kitchen Nippon, they were making yuzu kosho. And they had like the salt from Niigata, and they had like these really hot peppers that everyone was just in tears for cutting for the yuzu kosho, because it has a bit of a kick to it. Um, and I took everyone's prepared kind of bottles when they'd finished. I'd taken them and I just photographed the photos for their blog that they were going to write about. And yeah, I got to make one as well. It's been a few years since this photo, so I've already finished the yuzu kosho already. But I do have the recipe. They did give us a recipe.
Yeah. This is something in the workshop that we did for Seeking Sustainable Tourism workshop, which we tried a few times this year. We had a chef from a ryokan in Nagano teaching how to make vegan kaiseki ryori, which is the beautiful dishes. And one of the ingredients he had all of us go and buy is yuzu kosho. And I couldn't find it because the kanji on the package was so difficult. But once I found it, there was a huge section. So this is like a secret ingredient of Japanese cooking that I had not realized existed.
Oh,
And it's so delicious,
I
right?
love yuzu kosho. Yuzu kosho is the first thing I buy when winter hits, because I put it on all of the oden that I get during the season. So whether it's konbini oden or grocery store oden, or I haven't gotten to making my own oden yet, but I forgo the mustard and I put yuzu kosho on everything oden.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you want to go through your PDF if there's anything we didn't touch on for the
Um,
last couple minutes?
you know what? We touched on pretty much everything. I'm looking through it right now, and I mean, yeah, we talked about just everything that is what TopTia strives for and enjoys. And up Sakura photo from, I think that is this year's Sakura, yes, in Nakameguro. Which I was one of those sad people who never gone to Nakameguro during Sakura season. I'd hear people say, oh, Meguro is beautiful during Sakura season. And I was on the Toyoko line and I was on my phone. And as we stopped at Nakameguro, I just looked up and it's this sea of pink. And I just let out this, whoa, on the train, and everyone's looking at me, and then they're looking at what I'm looking, and they're looking at it, and all the phones go. So I had to schedule a trip to come down or to go down to Meguro River and just take pictures of the sakura in the area.
This is a gorgeous photo, and I have taken sakura photos for many, many years, as everybody in Japan or every visitor to Japan does in spring. But it's not easy to take good photos of the sakura. There's like too much of it, and finding the right angle. So this is a great, beautiful example of what a real photographer can do.
It's one of those things where you have to think about like, yeah, you have to think about what you want to highlight. Of course, you want the sakura, but Do you want the sakura tree amongst the other trees? Do you want the sakura petal amongst the other petals, or the collection of sakura amongst the other ones? It's all about really trying to isolate the main one instead of just taking a picture of anyone. You define one that you want to really focus on, and then take a photo of it and try to find ways to enhance it so that it's not just disappearing amongst all the other sakura photos. And it's a fun flower photography tip. Just trying to isolate the photo of the flower you want to focus on.
Well done. That is beautiful. That's a great one to end on. Thank you so much, Tia, for joining
Thank you.
and sharing all your photography insights. I would love to do this every 6 months or every year and follow up on your new projects, your new photos.
Oh, thank you. I've got quite a few coming up, and it's summer, so of course all the summer photos I'm really excited about taking. There'll be some underwater photos. There'll be some nighttime photos. Every year I try to get something underwater, and I try to get the Milky Way when I'm in Niigata. So keep an eye out for those.
Wow, great. Yeah, maybe I can just show your website at the very end. You've
Sure.
got a beautiful website. Let me see. Does this work? There you go. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it on, I guess, the side panel.
Okay, you can. I have to choose it. Here we go. Okay, let me get us off screen just for a sec because I want to feature your beautiful website. It's gorgeous
Thank you.
and really well done. And so it shows all your different kind of photography you do at events, family couples, headshots, portraits, and you also have a blog where you
Yes.
talk about some of your other projects. So definitely check out TopTia.com. Nice and easy. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for joining. That was a great conversation with Tia. And tomorrow we are talking with LaShawn Toyota, who is a programmer, and she created a great open source resource right now for people who are looking to sign up for vaccinations, even if you don't have your voucher. So she's going to talk about that project that she's done. On Twitter, she's Yokohama Life. So easy to find if you want to have a look before tomorrow's talk. But 5 p.m. tomorrow, talking with LaShawn. So definitely join us again tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you so much, Tia.
Thank
Everyone,
you.
have a good day.
You
Take
too.
care.
You too.
Thank you.